Hey Reefers, welcome back to Grand Canyon Reefs, and today we're talking about Goniopora coral care, including lighting, flow, feeding, and other general tips. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for your chance to win a frag of little shop of Horozoas, shipping included, to anywhere in the United States. And all you have to do to enter is be subscribed to the channel. The first winner received his frag a couple months ago, and I'll be picking the next winner in the month of June. So best of luck, and let's get into the video. So Goniopora are often called flower pot corals, and they're also lumped together with other similar species of corals like Bernardopora and Alveopora. And in today's video, we're not going to be diving into the scientific aspects of the coral, like where it's from or anything along those lines. Be sure to check out Van's video in Tidal Garden's YouTube for a much deeper dive on the coral anatomy and care requirements. But today I'll just kind of be highlighting some of my experiences that I've had with gonies and what I've been doing for around 2 years to keep them this happy and growing. When I first started keeping gonies, I had a frag tank and I was helping grow out a couple of my friends for a while. And after having some great success with that, I started to get my own frags and now have quite a few large colonies. So the first aspect that we'll kind of dive into is their lighting requirements. Most hobbyists will tend to say that they like lower to medium light ranges, anything from 50 to 150 par, and mine are currently sitting at around 150 to 175, depending on the specific colony. So I do have them on the slightly higher side since I do have a mixed reef which is packed full of SPS, but as you guys can see, the Gonioporas are loving it. And I will note that every time I do add a new flower pot frag, I often put them off to the side or very low in light in order to acclimate them for a few days to even weeks, just really depending on how the coral is reacting. And so that's why you see these Bernardporas on this frag rack here, as I'm just getting them used to the light and slowly raising them and lowering them as I see necessary until I find the permanent location. And I'll also note that even though Bernardpora are very much lumped into Goniopora and Alveopora in their care requirements, I've definitely noticed that they do require a lot less light and a lot lower par than general Gonioporas. So as you can see, my couple Bernardporas that I have dispersed around the tank, I have them in like low hanging light areas or just very dim places where they can kind of get some light but really not, because too much light and you'll really notice that they recess a lot into the skeleton. And moving on from lighting, we'll now talk about flow. When it comes to flow, I always lean on the side of more is better than less, as long as it's not directly at coral tissue. And for flower pots, I really try to see a lot of random movement between the polyps, and I want to have alternating flow that really tries to blow the tentacles back around in varying directions to just constantly allow the coral to filter feed off the water. And whether that alternating flow is every couple of seconds or just a couple times an hour doesn't matter from my experience, just as long as the polyps are fully extended and are being able to move in varying directions as the flow of the water changes. And what I specifically mean by extended is not that just some of them are out from the body, but that they're kind of stretching away in a sense. Take a look at this top-down view of these Goniopora with the flow completely off. And notice how the tentacles are out, but they aren't fully extended like in this video. So you want to see the tentacles kind of moving around in different directions and actually extended out. And now, feeding. This has really been such a huge topic in coral care and health as of the last couple years, and while I definitely think that feeding does benefit corals and have a lot of positive outcomes from it, I don't think we as a community have fully understood how exactly it helps and which specific corals it'll help the most. So while I do loosely feed my corals, I err on the side of caution and only do it around once a week or so until it's better really understood in the hobby as of what its benefits are, and also until we kind of start seeing less marketing from companies just trying to have you spend more money on your tank. And now, let's talk about the specifics on how I feed my Goniopora and my tank in general. So I'll broadcast feed my tank the same mix that I'm about to show you now, and I usually do it once a week, often less than that, and I don't turn any flow off, not my pumps, not my return pump or anything, and I'll just dump in around a third of what I mix up every 10 minutes or so until the entire container is gone. Very simple. And now I'll show you the exact contents of what I'm putting inside the broadcasting food and how I mix it up. So I use 3 liquid foods. They're all from Brightwell Aquatics, and the purpose of these 3 are to have as many different sized liquid particle foods as possible for every coral type and every coral mouth size to have a chance of grabbing something from the water column. So you'll see in this bottle here, which is called Phytogreen S, it has particle sizes from 1 to 2 micromoles, so very, very small. In my next bottle here, I have the Phytogold S, which varies from size in 4 to 10 micromoles. And the last bottle is the Zooplanktos S, which varies in size from 50 to 300 micromoles. So still very small, but obviously on the 10 times bigger, or excuse me, 100 times bigger than the Phytogreen S. And so between these 3 liquid foods, I'm giving coral polyps and coral heads of all sizes their choice on the best possible food source that they would like. And now I next add 2 powder foods, which are Benepets and Reefroids. And I want to really highlight here for these powder foods that I use a very small amount, and this is going into a 100-gallon system only a couple times a month. And I hear a lot of stories about people using these powder foods and their nutrients start skyrocketing in their tank, and I think it is very likely the cause that not necessarily that the powder food is what's causing the nutrients, but the amount that they're adding is what's causing that high nutrient spike. So as you can see here, I use a very small amount of each of these very concentrated products, and once again, this little small amount is going to a 100-gallon tank on a weekly basis essentially, so very small. This size container here will last me probably years, if not longer. And lastly, I add some frozen mysis and other spirilla and brine shrimp to really soak up the different liquid and powder foods for the larger polyps to have, that have mouths to be like candy canes or bubble corals or corals like that, to be able to literally feed on those shrimp that are soaked in the different powder and liquid foods. And I'll shake this around a bunch and let it defrost for a few minutes before adding the first third to my tank. And that's really it as far as feeding for my Goniopora and all my corals. Like I had mentioned before, I don't ever target feed, and I don't daily feed other than the auto feeder that has pellets for the fish. And that's really it as far as any other specific care requirements that I have for Goniopora. I specifically don't really dose any specific trace elements like any manganese or anything along those lines. And I really don't ICP my tank as well. I did one time over a year and a half ago, but I haven't since then, and I really don't plan on in the future. And if you guys are at all interested in the reason for why I'm choosing not to, go ahead and leave that down in the comments, and I can maybe potentially make that a future video. And with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up this video on Goniopora and their coral care and the experience that I've had with them. Go ahead and be sure and leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much, and happy reefing!